listen to us. Maybe we will listen to Crate and Barrel. Maybe we will listen to Garmin. Maybe we will listen to the dollars in this town. So if they don't tell Rahm Emanuel to step down, then they will not profit in this town.
The Chicago police officer charged with first-degree murder in the fatal shooting of 17-year-old Laquan McDonald was back in court today. The Windy City and surrounding areas still sitting on a razor's edge after a weekend of mostly peaceful demonstrations. And this day we're back to discussion of the video that showed Officer Jason Van Dyke shooting the teenager multiple times, the narrative that is emerging, and serious questions about whether Mayor Rahm Emanuel was involved to the level of a possible cover-up. We'll start there. Let's welcome back to the Hardline former Illinois Congressman Michael Patrick Flanagan. Congressman, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I know that your heart still is with the people in Illinois and in Chicago as well, but let's begin with the hard question here. There's a lot of thought about why it could have taken 13 months to come to this decision to press charges against the police officer. There's a lot of talk that Mayor Emanuel was the one who suppressed certain video and still is suppressing it. How much is on his shoulders for what is happening in Chicago right now? Okay, I think we're having an audio issue here with the congressman. We can't hear him. Let's see if we can go ahead and take care of that momentarily. There we are, Congressman. I'm sorry, but we lost about the first 20 seconds of your answer. Could you start again, please?
I'd be glad to. I said it didn't take 13 months to bring an indictment. It took 48 hours. That's when the judge said you're going to release the video, and they said, good God, we have to do something before the video is released, and they decided on an indictment. That's the problem, is that they knew over a year ago of all of this. It was close to the mayor's election. None of this was going to come out. Rahm Emanuel was going to have a very tough preliminary election, and he was hoping to get over 50% so he wouldn't have to go to a runoff, but he wound up having to do that anyway. But you might even be able to talk now that maybe he might not even have made the top two if this had come out before that election. There's one thing Chicago Pals can do is count the votes.
So then let's get down to that, if you will, because you mentioned Chicago politics, and I think that's great. I still remember in the movie The Untouchables when Sean Connery said that's the Chicago way. No matter how we look at it, is this still endemic of what has been and what remains the Chicago way?
I watched your show earlier today. You had a gentleman on from Florida talking about how elections have consequences, and we won and you lost, and Republicans can't be trusted to do anything, so we're just going to do it outside of the rule of law because we have to have this done. It's always about the election. It is never about anything else. As long as we can do it the right way, as long as it gets us reelected, we're glad to do it the right way. Otherwise, we'll find a way to finesse it. It is always about clinging at fingernail grip on power at all times. And
so
this
then
had nothing. I'm sorry.
So then we definitely are. You are agreeing then that it still is the Chicago way, still Chicago politics, still dirty Chicago politics, and it even can begin and end right with the mayor's office.
Yes, the mayor and the police chief are two birds in a feather. They are there, and one takes care of the other takes care of one, and they make sure that they go on together. Controlling the prosecutorial and arrest forces of any organ of government is essential to maintaining power, and the state's attorney, the Cook County state's attorney, the police chief, and anybody else involved in carrying on a prosecution there has to be in the control of the fifth floor, as we call the mayor in Chicago, the guy who occupies the fifth floor, and that is absolute a lead pipe cinch that Rahm runs the show there.
I got about 30 seconds left here then. Looking at what will happen here, so far the demonstrations are peaceful. There are people calling for resignations of the mayor and a number of other people on that fifth floor and in Chicago government. Do you see anything happening? Will anything change whatsoever, regardless of how many demonstrations there are?
This has a lot of people upset that ordinarily wouldn't be upset. For goodness sakes, Jesse Jackson and I are on the same side of this issue. That should tell you something right there. There is a furor over this that's not going to go away as Rahm hopes it will. This is going to stew and simmer for a while, and then it's going to explode. And not in violence, but in a very hard look by people who know how to look at these things at the fifth floor, how Chicago operates and how it runs its business.
And maybe there doesn't need to be a change in Chicago, because we cannot simply have the same old going on in a city in America these days. Congressman Michael Patrick Flanagan, I want to thank you very much for your time. We do appreciate it. Now, the president whispers dirty, sweet nothings into the ears of China and India, along with anybody else who doesn't give a care about clean air around the planet. We'll talk that next on The Hardline.